This is a response, or I don't know if it's really a response, but a video which will probably become a video series for saviourzeroone, who is new to role-playing and wants to know about World of Darkness. My first suggestion would be go to the Wikipedia, look up World of Darkness, and read through some stuff there. That's how I found out about it, and it probably will serve you better than my ramblings, but I thought I would do this anyway. I may get some stuff wrong, but I hopefully won't get much wrong, as I won't be going into details. And I'm sorry if you hear weird noises coming from the computer. I may have some Skype messages come in or something while I'm doing this. I don't know. I did last time, so I'm just warning you. Let me. So, World of Darkness has been through several incarnations, the two major ones being Old World of Darkness and New World of Darkness, although Old World of Darkness encompassed like 3 different editions at least, so it's really had many changes, but then it went through a whole reboot after the end of Old World of Darkness. And there goes my Skype alert thing again. Anyway, basically the Old World of Darkness got loaded down with a bunch of metaplot and crap and a ton of supplements, and people kind of got scared off by it, by the amount of supplements that it seemed you had to buy in order to even play the games or understand them. So White Wolf, who published the game, axed the old edition and created a new edition, which had a much more toolbox approach, or at least, I mean, the Old World of Darkness game was supposed to have a toolbox approach, but it just got such an overload of material and metaplot and stuff that kind of became moot, I guess. But anyway, I'm just gonna go through the major lines. Vampire was the first. World of Darkness vampire was called Vampire the Masquerade, and it was it was kind of a gothic. All the Old World of Darkness stuff had a very gothic punk feel, and Vampire was based around the idea that Cain was the first vampire cursed by God for killing Abel and turned into a vampire. He created Childer, and then those Childer had created other Childer through something called the Embrace, which is basically the sort of stereotypical bite people on the neck thing. Not that everyone a vampire bites becomes a vampire, it's a little more complicated than that, but that's the basic idea. And it was very focused on it started out at least as very focused on how you're on like keeping your humanity, because as you did more vampiric stuff, more inhuman stuff, you lost humanity, and eventually you would just completely give in to your beast and become an NPC, basically. And then as the time went on, it introduced more sort of political machinations among the vampires, and all kinds of cool stuff. There were a lot of different clans and all kinds of things, but it was just a very political game, very very brooding on some level. And then there was the Sabbat, who were very kind of holy warriors of Cain and stuff, and they were really interesting. This artist has a cool series of vids called Sabbat Blabbering, which I really like, so if you want to learn more about the Sabbat, go look those up. Next would be, I'm just going to go through all of the, and then basically with the New World of Darkness incarnation of Vampire, which was Vampire the Requiem, it just sort of got rid of all the metaplot and the stuff that had kind of overloaded Vampire, and went back to the basics of dealing with your loss of your humanity. There was certainly political machination going on, but it's not so overwhelming, and it was a much more sort of freeform system, I guess. There were still clans and things, but there were far fewer clans, and they were much more kind of open to interpretation, I guess. I don't really know how to describe that. My brain's not working very well right now. Werewolf was the second major line. Werewolf the Apocalypse was the first game, very much focused on sort of man versus nature type thing. And then Werewolf the Forsaken, they switched from being guardians of nature to being guardians of the veil between the spirit realm and the material world. Never really had much interest in Werewolf, so I don't know that much about it. Vampire and Werewolf, and all of the lines had some good historical settings, but I'm not going to go into these because the basic sort of conceits of the setting were the same. It was just a different time period. Mage. First game, Mage of the Ascension, very sort of philosophical, and the whole idea was that you could change reality by sort of changing your beliefs, and if you people who had this right strength of will could actually cause magic and stuff by changing by sort of belief stuff. Again, or by believing hard enough or whatever. It was very philosophical. I didn't really get much into it. But then there were the huge amounts of mundane people would cause paradox. So if you did a huge amount of magic, then people would notice and stuff, and it would basically reality would fight back from you changing it in a drastic way. And then there were these people called the technocracy who were trying to maintain the status quo and stop magic and all that. Then the new incarnation, Mage the Awakening, made it so all magic came from Atlantis, and then magic was very, and then there were these people called the Exarchs who were mages who tried to become gods, and they had created a celestial ladder from earth to heaven, and then the ladder broke, and it's still very, very crazy and philosophical, and I don't know that much about it. Again, I suggest looking up on Wikipedia. There was Demon, where you play demons. There was Wraith, where you play wraiths. Again, very political, the Wraith one is, and Demon one. And there was, neither of those had a New World of Darkness incarnation. And then there was Mummy, which I don't know that much about at all, and where you just basically, all I know is that you play mummies. And there was Changeling, which was called Changeling the Dreaming in the old World of Darkness, and it was very sort of centered or sort of fairy tale-ish. I mean, I don't want to, that's kind of a stereotype, but, and it didn't have to be, but it was kind of people who break through into the realm of imagination, sort of like Mage, but not really. Very similar at all when you get into it. That's just sort of a thumbnail description. People who were born as basically humans or thought they were humans, and then at some point during their life, they kind of grow into their changelingness, and they can go into the changeling world and stuff. Don't know that much about it. Again, the new incarnation was Changeling the Lost, where people get kind of kidnapped by fairies, and then horrible stuff goes down in the fairy world, and then they escape, and they're constantly on the run from the fairies. New World of Darkness specific lines that weren't reimaginings of the old ones. We have Promethean the Created, where you play Frankenstein's monster types who try to become human, basically through this long process. We have Geist the Sin Eaters, about sort of similar, like a reincarnation of Wraith, but very different. Where you play people who have died and come back from death, but they have this thing called the Geist, which kind of they have to make a devil's deal with, and it's kind of a bad evil spirit that inhabits them or something. I don't know that much about it. Then there's some other stuff that I can't think of right now, and I don't know why I can't think of it. Oh, Hunter the Reckoning was another old World of Darkness one, where you played hunters who were kind of your Van Helsing types, but they had these supernatural powers to fight supernatural creatures with, and that kind of got insane, and a lot of people lost interest in Hunter the Reckoning. The new imagining, Hunter the Vigil, basically stripped it down to its basics of you are humans fighting monsters, but you don't really have supernatural powers. I think on the really high power level end of the spectrum, you could get supernatural powers, but he wasn't like very much like Hunter the Reckoning at all. Very much focused on normal people fighting monsters with normal, mundane stuff. And then also there was a core setting just called World of Darkness in the new World of Darkness line, where you could just play humans, sort of like a Cthulhu type thing, or do whatever you wanted with it, really. That's the end. I hope I didn't go over